Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christiansen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. We just interviewed Ben Buzek, the director of the Passive Income Lab. Great interview, Anthony. What was a takeaway to you had?
Well, I tell you, fortunately, I can speak from experience. You and I both graduated from the Passive Income Lab. And I will say that this is one of the things I felt Infinite Wealth was missing, right? We talked about passive income and infinite banking, but we didn't have the resources or the tools I felt to properly implement that passive income strategy. And that's what this lab does. And from going through, I tell you, I learned many things. A couple highlights is I built my buy box. I know exactly what it is that I'm looking for, and there's tools that I can quickly evaluate an investment opportunity against my buy box. And it's allowed me to avoid a couple mistakes. To be honest, I was going to do this one investment, and then when I ran it through the buy box, the due diligence, I realized the collateral was not what I thought. So that allowed me to pivot, and I didn't make a mistake. Also, what I liked about this was that accountability. I mean, part of the plan, they're pushing you to do your research, ask your questions, and take action. And I will tell you, if I wasn't in this, I, I get sidetracked on doing so many other things. The last thing I'm concentrating sometimes is my own personal investing. But this allowed me to. I think I think I made 4 separate investments. Not only did I do that, but I also did it with confidence that I know that it fits my buy box, and I felt like I did the proper due diligence. Cam, what were your takeaways?
First one is I liked his definition of a passive investment and a time commitment. He said that if you're spending 10 hours a week or less, that it's a passive activity. And so, for me, I realized that your role in Infinite Wealth is passive, Anthony. You spend less than 10 hours a week in Infinite Wealth. So kudos to you. But the other realization that I had was that it kind of was highlighted before, but he shared his experience and what if he would have had the tools of the passive income lab back when he first started investing, he would have avoided a mistake, kind of what you were mentioning there. But I was going to share that knowing what not to invest in is just as important as knowing what to invest in. And then also, man, if you listen to the podcast, he goes through and he highlights several of the resources that are available to our listeners. The investor DNA, building a buy
Right.
box, a personal P&L. Guys, if you have questions on those, or if you feel like, hey, that's something that I need, guys, feel free to reach out to us. Schedule a free call. We'd love to talk to you guys about how infinite banking and passive income could be a piece of your financial strategy here. So, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this interview. Again, Ben Buzek, family centric special operations veteran. Man, we didn't even get into any of that. I know this guy's got some great stories there, but he's also a real estate investor, and he's earned everything he has through curiosity, adaptability, and his willingness to trailblaze new opportunities. Ben survived bull riding, 27 combat deployments, 3 motor vehicle accidents, and a parachuting accident. And he thrives on living life to the fullest and preparing others to learn and grow. Great interview. Hope you guys enjoy it. If you're an investor or want to be, and you're ready to build passive income that exceeds your monthly expenses, you found the right podcast. Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast, where we combine the wealth building principles of Rich Dad Poor Dad with the power of the infinite banking concept to help you take control of your money and your future.
Join us as we bring insights from experts and from Cameron, as well as real-world strategies and proven tools to help you create financial freedom without relying on Wall Street. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christiansen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. And today we're sitting down with the director of the Passive Income Lab, Ben Buzek. If you guys have been curious about how everyday investors are creating consistent passive income without Wall Street, this is the episode for you. Ben, welcome to the show, man.
Great to be on. Thank you so much. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Ben, let's get started, man. Why do you think so many high income earners still feel financially like they're stuck even though they're doing all the right things?
Such a great question. And we actually get this a lot. So most people, we get raised up. Our society, they teach us a playbook, and it's built for Wall Street, and it's not for us. We're told to accumulate. We're told to defer. We're told to smoke hopium and hope it all works out, right? But that just creates more stress. It creates uncertainty. True financial freedom, it doesn't come from a number in an account. It comes from monthly cash flow that covers your lifestyle. And for me, that time financial freedom really means time freedom. And that's time freedom to do what I want with whom I want when I want to. And I don't know why anybody would want to, um, you know, give that control over to somebody else.
What happened in your life for you to kind of have a turning point to know that what traditional financial advice just wasn't working for you?
Yeah, I have a pretty personal story with that. So, maybe like some of your listeners, I grew up in a very blue collar home. Financial freedom wasn't taught. Finances weren't really even taught or nor talked about. I started off at 10 years old with my own lawn mowing business. I grew that significantly. By the time I was 12, I was paying my parents' mortgage, not because of me, but because just the financial hardships my parents were facing. Um, Fast
Wait,
forward
wait,
to,
wait, wait, Ben, hold on.
yeah,
Say that again. At age 12, you were paying the mortgage for your family.
right. It was challenging. And nothing, not to take anything away from my parents, but man, they did the very best they could. We knew we were loved. But as far as finances, like that hits home significantly. So I tried to figure out how can I prevent that happening for me, my family growing up. And so that led to today, really. I mean, there's so many different ways we could go, but this is a shorter podcast, not long form. Um, that led to me determining that I needed to take control of my finances, utilizing IBC, using passive income, and creating that lifestyle I want. To this day, my parents, now in their 70s, they are still living paycheck to paycheck. If that resonates with any of your viewers, man, I would love to hear your stories because it's really terrible that that's what's happening in today's society.
Ben, I would add this is I just got off a call earlier this morning and I spoke with a wonderful lady, but she was kind of late 50s and she felt relieved that we had some of these resources available for her because she stated that she's gone her entire life without really knowing how to invest and not even knowing how, but even knowing where to get started. She felt completely clueless. So, to kind of your sentiment there about your parents is, man, people are going through life without having any idea how to do it and nor where to get started. So, you talked about we could take this conversation in many different directions, but man, I want to focus on the passive income lab today because I think it's a great resource for those types of individuals that we just discussed here. So, Ben, for someone hearing about Passive Income Lab, maybe for the first time, what is it and who is it designed for?
Yes, I'm so glad you jumped down this rabbit hole because I love the Passive Income Lab. I'm a big fan of it. Uh, the cool thing about the Passive Income Lab, just to take it back to what it originally was made for, all of the coaches, myself included, we started off as clients. We started off as IBC folks. Like we read a book like you and probably most of your audience have. We got on calls, we learned, we educated ourselves, we got IBC, and then we were like, what do we do with this? I have cash value. What now? What's next? And now we learned how to take that cash value, turn it into purchasing assets that now pay us passive income. And I recognize I'm wearing a shirt that says passive income, but we can also substitute that for recurring revenue if that helps some folks, because that can be a stuck point for some folks. Nothing's free, nothing is totally passive. And that's where we developed the Passive Income Lab. Now, this is such a cool I want to say it's a program, but really it's a done with you program that we host you for 12 weeks. It is helping investors, new or experienced, to instill their first or their next $500 of passive income. And we do that very specifically. Happy to jump into the details, but wanted to pass it over to you guys to see if you had any questions about that first.
I tell you, Ben, one thing I would say, we are guilty of it. We throw around this passive income word, and but and a lot of times it ends up being active income. But Ben, how do you define passive income?
That's a great question because I think we can all get wrapped around the axle of what that means for us or our specific situations. In the passive income lab, we utilize a resource that the founders of the company I work with, Wealth Without Wall Street, they came up with. It's called the Right Next Thing Grid. The Right Next Thing Grid. It's a resource that we utilize to help take a snapshot of where somebody's at in their planning, their vision, their IBC, their passive income, their tax strategy, and then also their structures like their business or what happens when they graduate to heaven. Like all of that stuff matters today. And that right next thing grid helps us to not get into a stuck point, but to realize what the next thing is that we need to focus on. As defined by the right next thing grid in our passive income column, we would suggest that anything that you spend 10 hours or less a week on is passive. So if I have a side hustle and I'm doing all the work, that probably isn't going to lead us to passive income unless it's creating recurring revenue. And we can discuss the nuances of that. But generally speaking, we're talking about an activity that you participate in that doesn't take too much time away from your work week.
Ben, if somebody wanted to learn more, what we're going to dive more into it, but I just want to be able to promote the website now. So where is somebody if they wanted to learn more go?
If you're hungry for it, go to choosepassiveincome.com. That it's that easy. Just go to choosepassiveincome.com and we have a little questionnaire on there. We have so many great testimonials of amazing folks that have been through this already. And I got to highlight this. Like we've only had about out of all the clients we've serviced so far, um, I'm excited to share this number. Like about 26 of them have invested so far, and that number is like almost $2.7 million invested. Not because me or my coaches told them where to invest, but because they gained the confidence and clarity to learn in this program of how to invest and how that fits and aligns with them. And that might be a good segue of discussing a little bit more of the details, but we're super excited to hear about all these folks, growing or starting their financial freedom journey.
Now, Ben, there's a lot of resources. There's books, there's YouTube. How is this different from some of those other kind of do it yourself resources?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. Do it yourself. That's how I started. That's how I would imagine probably you guys started, and I know my co-coaches. We all started that way. Do it yourself. Figure it out. Um, if I had the passive income lab, I can assure you, I would have multiple six figures still in my pocket. I would not have made some poor decisions when it comes to investments or trusting in folks. This is a done with you model where um, participants in this, and we keep the cohort small. We only accept 10 people at a time, no more than that, because we want to make sure it's an intimate setting where people are coming on. We're going to discuss things like who you are as an investor. We take a couple different tests for that. The investor DNA. We go to the culture index, and then we utilize those tools plus who you are as a person, what your preferences are, what your values are, and we create the elucid buy box. You've probably heard that somewhere, whether on our podcast at Wealth Without Wall Street, your podcast, or any other outlet. The buy box. We help you create your personal, very specific buy box so that you know what investment aligns with you and only you. And I think that's really the big differentiator is giving people clarity on what they should be investing in, not what they're wanting to invest in. I chased one investment because it was promising a ton of money, and yeah, I like money, right? Who doesn't like money? But but it was the total wrong investment for me, and it turned out to be a complete train wreck. We want to use our experience, the coaches, and help you to learn our lessons that we paid full retail for at an extremely discounted rate, and hopefully you never repeat them. That's kind of the real differentiator that the passive income lab brings. It's a done with you model. We're giving you opportunities to do our one-on-one coaching sessions. You get 3 of those and during that 12-week course. We have weekly open labs, which is an office hours. And then we also have the weekly um, um, normal classes that cohort of 10 is a part of.
Ben, I would tell you, if you take a loss, I mean, it's very impactful. Not only are we taking a step backwards, but also emotionally it hurts, and it could be cautious to maybe we don't want to do it again. Ben, can you share some things that if you would have went through the passive income lab, can you give a little example on what you would have learned that would have stopped you from making a major mistake?
Yeah, I am all about sharing my mistakes again to hopefully help folks not make the same ones. So when we talk about investor DNA, it's based off a disc profile. My particular profile is ID, which means I like to run really fast and not pay attention to details. That's okay. That's great for a lot of things, but when it comes to details, I need somebody to help me. Um, One example I'll give you is not to dog short-term rentals at all. I know they're fantastic and a lot of people have been successful. I saw how much money some of my friends were making. I was like, I want some of that. Let's jump into that. And I did. I utilized a quote unquote turnkey short-term rental provider. Now, their business model was genius, guys. Cameron, you would love how they structured this because the middle person was completely, they had no risk whatsoever. It was an arbitrage model where nobody owned the property except the landlord. There was a master lease passed down to me, the investor, through that third party resource. And I was responsible for all the funding. I was responsible for paying the bills. I was responsible for the initial, stocking of the furniture and paint, all that good stuff, right? So already I'm in 30 to 60K per short-term rental. The middleman is just they're collecting money as the quote unquote property manager. And really all they do is, click on Airbnb or Verbo, like, hey, come rent this place. Well, 2 days before Christmas or, before Christmas Eve, or before Christmas, sorry. So the night before Christmas Eve, a few years ago, we get an email and all the investors get an email. Hey, we're going out of business. And, yep, you and the landlord just need to figure this out from now on. And that was it. It was goodbye. All of a sudden, my investor profile of, hey, fire and forget, get this short-term rental arbitrage model that's done for you, pay money into it and just collect passive income. All of a sudden, overnight before Christmas, it turns into now you're the owner and operator. Well, for my profile, that's gonna be a complete disaster. So, it turned into be a very slow bleed out over the next 18 months of me having to basically pay that money versus receive that money, and, funny thing is I share this with all of our passive income lab, clients. Uh, I didn't have a buy box back then. I didn't have the tool that we utilize for our buy box, which is, we've manufactured a chat GPT that we keep in house and we utilize that for buy boxes. This has been 5 or 6 years later. I have since dragged um, that deal, the pitch deck of that into my buy box. And would you be surprised to know, Anthony, that it came up with all red flags and like literally blaring signals saying, do not invest in this, Ben. This is not for you. That's just one example, a personal example of like, this is how much of a game changer it is to have an objective tool that we created in the passive income lab to help you realize this is not a good idea for you, or yes, this checks all the blocks. You should definitely invest in that.
Ben, I appreciate you sharing that, man. Right, is sharing some of our losses is never easy, but there is also the other side of the coin. Do you mind maybe sharing some successes? Can you share a story about maybe someone that's joined the lab and went from confused to confident over that 12-week period?
Absolutely. So, you know, Anthony, if you're not watching this on YouTube, I highly recommend it if you aren't, but he's wearing a shirt that says PI is greater than ME. What does that mean, Anthony?
Means is your passive income is greater than your monthly expenses.
100%. That would, in our mathematical minds, lead us to believe that's financial freedom, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Fantastic. I was just on a call. I was doing the final one-on-one coaching call with one of our passive income clients, and Yeah, I heard a statistic earlier this morning. I don't know 100% if it's true, but anything that AI produces is probably true. So I'll go with that. 30% of households in America actually have a budget that they live by. And I hate the word budget. You guys know that. I've said this to you before. I don't like the word budget. I like to call it wealth allocation plan. If we can rename it to something that's more positive, wealth allocation, everybody likes that. Wealth allocation plan. Um, Most people are just flying blind. They have no idea what their actual expenses are. And in the passive income lab, we have folks create the wealth allocation plan. Where is your money flowing? If we are trying to determine what our passive income is required to exceed our monthly expenses, but we have no idea what our monthly expenses are, we're just kind of shooting in the dark here. Um, so one of the things that we do is there's this great profit and loss statement, personal profit and loss statement that we do with our clients. And that helps them to know what that ME number is. So thereby we can determine what your passive income score is. $500 a month, which we're promoting in the passive income lab, is fantastic. But how much of a percentage of your monthly expenses is that really? It's going to be different for every one of us. This young lady I was closing out with just yesterday. Um, I've been bugging her. Let's do this P&L. Let's do this P&L. Finally, she gets on the call. The first thing that she wants to tell me is, Ben, I did the P&L. I did my wealth allocation plan. Fantastic. Let's talk about that. Where did you land? She gave me a figure. Okay, cool. Well, she already had a couple real estate things, assets under her belt, but now she was investing in another asset. She was going to throw 50K at a syndication, I believe. And so generating what that would look like, guys, I was super, super stoked to hear her say this because she looked and realized what her monthly expenses were versus what her passive income was. She was already financially free. She is at 126% of her monthly expenses, which means her passive income currently already takes care of her monthly expenses. She was elated to find out that she is already financially free. And now she's working on what's even cooler than making yourself financial free. She's working on the 200% club, which is now I'm doubled my monthly expenses. You know how many options you have when you have monthly income, recurring revenue that is exceeding your monthly expenses by 2x? Like, guys, that's super incredible. I was just super proud papa moment kind of a thing.
Let me touch on that. What you're talking about is part of the problem is people do not have a system,
Right.
right? They're just very reactive. And that's partly why we created the passive income operating system. And we recorded a 42-minute webinar that goes through that. You do it at time and a half. You can get it in, finish that in 27 minutes. So I would check out Infinite Wealth Consultants / Pios.
That's such a great point. You need a system. Nobody teaches that. The system we're taught, like we alluded to at the beginning of the podcast, is throw your money into this, one of 10,000 different mutual funds and I promise you, it's the best one. Even though the person investing your money for you probably isn't even invested in that mutual fund.
Ben, I got a question around taxes. Always a big issue, kind of a big pain point. One is, what kind of role does tax strategy play in the passive income lab? How much time are you guys spending on that conversation?
You know, for those that, the recovering CPA in the room will probably nod his head yes on this. So many of us are concerned about taxes and tax liability because we don't understand it. If we truly recognize what the IRS code is teaching us, it's not teaching us to be fearful. It's teaching us what the government wants us to invest in. It's an incentive roadmap. It is a way, like the government doesn't want to be involved in housing. That's why if you're a real estate professional or somebody that does real estate investing, there's certain tax incentives that align with that. It's because the government recognizes that needs housing for its citizens. They don't want to be involved in it, so they're going to incentivize you to be a part of that. That's just one example. In the passive income lab specifically, we hit on this around week 9. We have a tax attorney and tax professionals come on, talk to our clients, and help them to understand how to reduce their liability, maximize their after-tax returns, and sometimes, you know, really, honestly, it's not even about making more money as much as it is keeping what you make or keep what you make already. And that's really the thing I want to drive home for folks. Like it's part of our right next thing grid. It's part of the conversation for your holistic financial well-being. We need to understand that. We need to understand that we need not just a CPA. CPAs are fantastic, but they're typically focused on our tax past. We need a tax strategist also, someone that's focused on our tax future. That combination of a tax, uh, you know, a past, kind of like the Scrooge story, right? You got the tax person in the past, the tax person in the future, and then yourself in the present. You need to have those discussions to really understand where you're letting money flow that it doesn't need to flow to.
I would say, Ben, you hit the nail on the head when you said CPAs are fantastic. Okay. But if somebody is stuck, right, they want to learn, they want to create passive income more than the monthly expenses, but they don't know where to start. What would you say to them?
I am all about education. We have a ton of resources. Your community at Infinite Wealth, our community at Wealth of Wall Street, there's a ton of resources that you can educate yourself, and that's the do-it-yourself model. That's great. But how fast? How meaningful is it to be at your kid's sporting event or your parents' 30th anniversary? Whatever it is in life that you're missing out on, how long are you going to let that pain point continue? I would encourage you to go again to choosepassiveincome.com. There, we have a little 10-question questionnaire to fill it out, see where you land on that. We want to make sure that we're helping folks, but if it's not the right fit for you, that's totally cool. I just encourage you to go and see the testimonials, see if that's the right fit for you, and maybe schedule a call and we can talk about your goals and your vision.
Ben, I couldn't agree more, right? If somebody's out there, they've been listening, everybody's out there working hard for your money, and now it's time that somebody takes that step and starts putting their money to work for them. You guys don't have to wait for someday. The Passive Income Lab, great opportunity with Ben and a couple other coaches in there to help you guys move forward and achieve your goals. So again, Ben, is it choosepassiveincome.com? That's the best place for them to go.
Yes, sir. That would be
All right.
fantastic. And hopefully myself or one of the other coaches on there will be able to answer some of your questions and direct you in the path. Make sure it's a good fit. Again, this isn't for everyone, but we keep the groups small intentionally. And so if you think this is the right fit, I would encourage you to reach out sooner than later.
Well, so if you're out there listening, you need to stop accumulating assets. We need to start turning them into passive income. And to do that, it's education, but also it's action. And so I would encourage you, if you're on the fence, maybe apply and see if this is for you and you're a good fit, so you can start creating your passive income more than your monthly expenses. Ben, thanks a lot for coming. We really appreciate your wisdom and your knowledge. You were very helpful for me when I took the class, which allowed me to help Cameron. Because then after the class, I would meet with him and kind of reinforce the idea like a tutor. But it could not have done that without you, Ben. Okay, so Ben, thank you.
Thank you for the kind
Go
words.
make it a fantastic day.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future conversations on building wealth and creating passive income.
You can learn more about Infinite Banking and get additional resources at infinitewealthconsultants.com. Until next time, keep investing with intention, and remember, your financial freedom is within reach.